It's time now to review headlines of today's newspapers. And of course, we'll be starting with this day on Saturday, where the lead story says, on MKO Abiola's 25th Memoriam, Tinubu says his message of hope echoes still. I think that is essentially to acknowledge the 25th on the 7th, which was yesterday, right?
Yes.
25th anniversary of the death of the acclaimed winner of the 1993 presidential elections, MKO Abiola. And that's Tinubu, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, using the same hope mantra to say that the message of hope echoes still. I think that's an important remembrance. And there's a synergy there, you know, Hope 93 and, of course, renewed hope 30 years after. On top of that lead story, Ebonyi police arrest 13 sit-at-home enforcers. Army crushes abductors in Zamfara. Four gunmen killed in Enugu. Well, I mean, the southeast is still experiencing, you know, quite a lot of upheavals as far as, you know, insecurity is concerned. But it's good news that the police in Ebonyi, you know, arrested 13 sit-at-home enforcers and army crushing abductors in Zamfara. Four gunmen killed in Enugu.
That sounds like progress to me.
Well, kind of, but then it's another thing to be sure if you can go all out, you know, to confront these people who are making life difficult for people in all the 5 states of the Southeast. I know that, for example, the Enugu State, you know, Governor Mba is all out to say that we won't negotiate, we won't even discuss this. It cannot continue because, I mean, look at it. Every Monday of every week, every month, every year, you're asking people to stay at home.
Definitely said to have even a direct impact on the bustling economy of of that state. If we're not able to have people go to just have their daily activities on Monday, which is supposed to be, you know, what sets the tone for the rest of the week.
Absolutely. I mean, it's bad, it's horrible, and there must be a way to put an end, you know, to this, actually. On top of that, Bokachua snubs ICPC's invitation, begs court to stop arrest. Probe of influencing wives' decisions. That's on the strip, just below the masthead. And on the window, Otudeco buys 87.8 billion naira shares to become largest First Bank shareholder with 14%. Battle for control intensifies. You know, the First Bank, I mean, the other time, I think it was Femi Otedola and, you know, the other gentleman, you know, struggling to take control of that very important bank. But here we are, about to buying 87.8 billion shares. And of course, it's now the largest shareholder with 14%. In First Bank. So we have the pictures of the key people there about Tudeko, Femi Otedola, Mike Adenuga, and Odukale, you know, the insurance man who had that, you know, tango with Femi Otedola sometimes last year or early this year. And of course, one more story on the cover of today's This Day. Federal government sets up committee on tax reforms. Which is in line with what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing to make sure that there are palliatives one way or the other, given the fact that people are struggling with some of the policies that he has put in place. So we have federal government setting up a committee on tax reforms. And I think that will go a long way if they get it right. The gentleman that was chosen as the chairman is well celebrated in the industry, and a lot of people have high hopes that things will definitely change in a matter of weeks, if not in a matter of months.
All right, then. Let's move over to the Saturday Sun. The headline story there reads, Adamu faces a sack. Battles for survival. Presidency officials, party chiefs mobilized. I mean, we saw all that played out, you know, with the election, or some would say the selection of the principal officers, of course, over the course of this week. So just looking to see how that in itself is going to play out. There's another story there that reads, PDP plans to bring Saraki as chairman, suffers setback. The opposition party undecided on the fate of the G5 governors. You know, these a particular group that, you know, they've come up quite a number of times, especially even this week, and how it relates directly to PDP, which, you know, is APC's strongest opposition party for years, and seeing how, you know, these G5 governors have been able to, you know, for the duration of a lot of the elections, kind of like just have their way within the party. So it's interesting to see how that in itself is going to play out. Another story there reads, soldiers and the police kill 10 suspected kidnappers in Zamfara, Rivers, and rescue 24 victims. And they also mentions there that 4 have been killed in the Edo Cult War. Still boils down to insecurity. And this in itself, I mean, the fact that they were able to even rescue 24 victims alone, I think is definitely progress. And it happened in Zamfara. So I'm wondering if it was there was dialogue, or if it was a brute force that was used to rescue these 24 people. But then there's another story there. At 805 million naira fraud, Supreme Court quashes Nwaboshi's conviction and orders immediate release. Wow, more about that story on page 27. It would be good to know the exact details of that story. What exactly did the Supreme Court find or see that made them, you know, go ahead with that decision for an immediate release of Nwaboshi? Under that story, Mike Ahamba's bombshell on Kanu lists why Tinubu will not free the IPOB leader. If we go to the top on there, it says, excitement as Ibadan gets 10 new kings. Ladoja shunned ceremony and says, I want only Olubadan's crown. Anyone not satisfied can go to court.
I don't know where... I don't know where the Saturday Sun saw the excitement in Ibadan, because it has never been a popular decision in Ibadan, but, you know, maybe for those who are direct beneficiaries. I think the position of former Governor Ladoja has always been that if you are already in line to become the Olubadan, no coronet, you know, kingdom will make sense to you. Wait for your time, because it's about one of the most progressive ways of becoming king, you know, in Ibadan. You know who's next. It's not about any external body, whether physical or spiritual, determining who will be the king. You know who will be the king by the succession in Ibadan. But here we are, the same thing that former Governor Ajimobi did that caused a lot of trouble is what Seyi Makinde is also going through with the Olubadan Council, appointing, you know, 10 new kings, those who potentially can become, you know, Olubadan. But of course, Ladoja is saying that I'm not interested in any other thing. It is that #1 crown, you know, that I don't want to be a coronet king. So we'll see how that goes. All right, then. All right, so we'll move on to Saturday Telegraph, where the lead banner story says, Northern Elders Forum, what Tinubu must do to correct Buhari's failures. And there are riders there, charges president to be mindful of country's complexities, wants inclusiveness, competence, integrity, to determine appointments, and insists subsidy remover double-edged sword whose effects must be mitigated. That's an important position by the Northern Elders Forum. And we really can't stop talking about, you know, all these policies. It's never a one-way traffic. It's about how people are responding to it. Another story on the cover of today's Saturday Telegraph, cabinet positions list put on hold due to unrelenting pressure on federal government. Dissolution of boards, part of efforts to broaden inclusion. And I recall that the special advisor to the president on information and special duties and strategy, Mr. Dele Alake, is saying that there is no ministerial list anywhere, and that the president is still within his 60 days in office, to send the list of his nominees to the National Assembly. But then a lot of people will think that for the president who had promised that he will hit the ground running, hitting the ground running is not just about removing subsidy or floating the naira. It should also include, if you have gotten approval to have 20 special advisors, this is your 5th or 6th week, but then only 10 advisors have been appointed. You will have a minimum of 36 ministers to choose, possibly up to 42 if you use the discretion of the president to pick one by geopolitical zone. People will have expected that maybe it's kind of a shadow cabinet, will have been waiting so that as soon as you're there. How come it is now that you are now feeling the pressure and you are now negotiating and you are making considerations? All those considerations ought to have been there. But hey, Mr. Dele Alake says that he's still within his time and he will do the needful before the end of this month, most certainly. So we'll see what happens. But the longer you wait, the more intense the pressure will be.
The pressure is getting worse.
It will get worse if you're not careful.
All right, do you have time for one more newspaper? Let's go to the Saturday Tribune.
Okay.
The cover story there, Ojukwu's brother begs Tinubu to free Nnamdi Kanu. Says chaos in markets, schools over gunmen in Anambra. And the police and Suludo, of course, saying that they are up to the task.
Yeah.
And then under the experts, motorists kick against the annual proof of ownership payment. That's extra 1,000 naira that you have to pay.
To prove the car that you own and that you
has
are
been
getting
registered under your
and
name.
that you pay on a yearly basis. You have to do additional 1,000 naira to prove that it is yours. And given the fact that we have about 12 million cars or something in Nigeria,
I mean, you are going to have to probably drop like 12,000 now for your 12 cars.
Who's that?
You
mean at the presidency? Okay, just we'll wrap up now. Daily Trust, which is very important, 1 month after Nigerians await palliatives. I think that is very instructive, because we are now in July. Shiwaju got there May 29th, but we're in July now. No palliative in sight.